नमस्कार।
नमस्कार सर।
ज्ञानोत्सव वेबिनार के सीजन 3 में आप सब लोगों का स्वागत है। हमने एक छोटा सा संकल्प लिया था आज से 2 साल पहले। गर्मियों के दिन थे और कुछ दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के दोस्तों के साथ एक चर्चा चली कि बिहार पर काम करने वाले जो रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स हैं उनको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर लाया जाए। और यूं ही बातचीत में ये सिलसिला निकलता चला गया और अब हम लोगों ने 3 वेबिनार कर लिए हैं, 3 कॉन्फ्रेंस कर लिए हैं। पहला कॉन्फ्रेंस दरभंगा कामेश्वर सिंह संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय में हुआ था। दूसरा कॉन्फ्रेंस दरभंगा के एक गांव में हुआ, पिंडारुश गांव में। और उसके बाद से हमें इतना अच्छा लगा कि ये जो कॉन्फ्रेंस इस तरह के वो गांव में किए जाने चाहिए, इसलिए तीसरा कॉन्फ्रेंस हम लोगों ने पटना जिला के मराची गांव में किया। तो बहुत अच्छा अनुभव है। और लोगों का ये कहना है कि ये आगे भी ये कॉन्फ्रेंस गांव में किए जाए, पर इसके अलावा हम लोग साल भर फोर्टनाइटली या पाक्षिक वेबिनार करते हैं और इसको भी वही महत्व देते हैं जो कि कॉन्फ्रेंस में आकर के पेपर पढ़ने वालों को दिया जाता है। तो आप सब लोगों का स्वागत है। हम ये चाहते हैं कि अब जो वेबिनार्स हों उसमें लोग अपना पेपर पहले भेज दें और बाकी स्कॉलर उसको पढ़ करके रखें ताकि डिस्कशन ज़्यादा मीनिंगफुल हो, क्या कहना चाहते हैं। और लेकिन इस बार ऐसा नहीं हो पाया, कोई बात नहीं है। हम लोग जल्दी ही पेपर भी सर्कुलेट करेंगे। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट हमने सर्कुलेट कर दिया है, आप सब लोगों ने एब्स्ट्रैक्ट देखा है। हम बिना किसी फर्दर इसके व्यवधान के मोहम्मद शामशे आलम जो कि आईआईटी दिल्ली में रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, पीएचडी स्कॉलर हैं। और ये काम कर रहे हैं माइग्रेशन के ऊपर, लेबर माइग्रेशन के ऊपर। इनसे हम लोग सुनते हैं कि इन्हें इनका क्या कहना है बिहार के बारे में। शम्स, आपके लिए ओपन है फ्लोर, आप आइए और आधे घंटे में 40 मिनट में अपनी बात कह सकते हैं। और उसके बाद हम लोग जैसा भी होगा तो डिस्कशन को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। स्वागत है।
सॉरी, मैं स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ, बट हाँ मैं अब कर रहा हूँ। सॉरी, वो शायद मुझे परमिशन नहीं मिला था।
नहीं।
इज इट विजिबल सर?
हाँ जी, जी शुरू कीजिए।
ओके सर, आई एम जस्ट लॉगिंग। ओके।
नहीं। हाँ।
Thank you so much for giving me opportunity to present my work. But this is a very quick work which happened in within a week, last week only. So I'll be presenting on the migration, labor market changes, whatever happened particularly after 2004-5, after the bifurcation of state of Jharkhand. And I'm currently a PhD scholar. I joined IIT Delhi in 2020, and now I am in phase of my thesis writing. Just a brief about my thesis. So basically, I'm working on the migration related topics. So for migration related topic, my study is based on the primary survey for my PhD. And but in primary survey, what I'm doing, I'm first looking at the destination based study, which for this study, I've conducted a field survey in Ludhiana and Faridabad. And in order to understand the migration dynamics from both ends, from the source region and destination region, what I did, I follow a group of migrants worker in East Champaran district, Bihar. Those who are working in Ludhiana in garment industry, mainly hosiery industries, to understand the livelihood strategy from both the destination base and from the source region. So this is a brief about my thesis. And about this today presentation, first I'll be looking at the demographic transition, uh, both at the national and state level. And as I said, I'll be looking at the changes in labor market, particularly from 2004-5. Um, and also looking at the students and the domestic duties who has been attending. And moreover, I'll be focusing on the labor market changes which happened after COVID-19 lockdown. So I'll be looking at the changes between 2017-18 PLFS data and 2023-24 PLFS data. And finally, I'll be looking at how the growth rate of Bihar has been matching, but still we are not able to produce uh, enough job in the non-agriculture sector, if I'll say precisely in manufacturing and services sectors. So for the data, what I've done, I've been using extensively 61st round NSSO data, PLFS 68 round, NSS 68 round, PLFS 2017-18, and this is a typo. It's not PLFS 20, it's PLFS 2023-24. And apart from that, I'll be using report from population projection in order to calculate the size of labor force. So what I've done, I've mm, calculated the size as the given in the labor for workforce participation rate from the PLFS report, PLFS data, and then I have tabulated from I have tried to tabulate from the uh, labor for participation in order to find estimated number of workers in a particular years in a particular state or region. So, an overview of a structural transformation, if you look at in India, so a structural transformation has been, people have been, a scholar in the labor economics have been talking about the labor structural transformation has been happening and it started in 2004-5 because there was an absolute fall in the number of agriculture workers in the country, and it was because of the decline of the female laborers in the agriculture sector. So some of economists, labor economists, has termed this as a positive changes because the participation of women in the education increased between the same time period. And as we know, the manufacturing employment in the countries has been stagnant. It's not, it's between moving between 11 12 to 15% over a period of time. And one of the major drawback of all the fast economic growth has been the jobless growth in the country. Precisely in the case of labor market in Bihar particularly, so there has been different phases of labor transformation, labor uh, in Bihar. So people have termed it as a stagnant agriculture for 4 decades. We can say till 1990 or 2000s, and there has been a feudal relations where somehow there is a bonded nature kind of agriculture labor practice in Bihar. And but with the liberalization in 1990s happened and the migration of workers expanded all over India, particularly towards, if you look at the history of migration. So after independence, if you'll see, uh, after the introduction of Green Revolution, the people from Bihar started moving towards the Punjab and Haryana. And the latest report on migration, if you'll say the Census of India 2011, there were around 7.5 million interstate migrants workers were in Bihar. And I'll show you how the structural transformation, the workforce shifting away from agriculture is happened much faster in case of Bihar than at the national level. And it is one of the youngest state, which I'll look at the. I'll show you the graph how the population in Bihar is estimated to be increasing over the particularly the working age group population will increase over a period of time. Uh, so if you look at this graph, uh, what you can see, the size of labor force, particularly the 15 to 19 59 age group, is somehow similar, but in case of the child below 15 years of age, 14 years of age, the share of child population in 2030, this is from the population projection report, will be around 30%. So, and but for India, if you will see, it will be around 22% only. So over a period of time, what we can expect, that there will be a huge supply of labor force from Bihar. um, so there will be a supply, but whether it will matching with the demand side or not, that will be the question to investigate. So coming back to the question, what we really need to understand is whether the demand for labor in non-agriculture sector, particularly as I mentioned, manufacturing, construction, and services sector, will increase enough to absorb this supply, rising supply of the labor youth in the state. So, if you look at the labor force participation in Bihar, one of the major drawbacks of this labor force, apart from the what you call the measurement issue, if you'll see the in 2017-18 particularly, when the labor for participation in Bihar, particularly in case of female, was around 3%. So it was much lower if you'll ignore the measurement issue. In case of there has been a lot of measurement issue, but it has been declining. But after 2017-18, after COVID-19 lockdowns and reverse migration happened, there was a huge increase in the labor for participation, particularly of women and also female, which we'll see if they are joining the labor force, where they are going. So we'll see in the other part of the presentation. Mm, so, moreover, in case of India, if you'll see the labor for participation in case of female, which increases from 17.5% to 31.7%, but overall labor for participation in case of Bihar has been always been low in compared to the national level. So that is one of the main one of the concern of the uh, for the state of Bihar. So, coming back to this sector wide distribution, it is really important to understand if the workers are joining into the labor force, so where they are going. So, if you'll see 1999 2000, so this year include the state of Jharkhand, when Jharkhand and Bihar was together. So, in 2000, around 80, more than 80% of the population were part of the were employed in the agriculture sector, whereas in 2004-5 you will see there was a slight decline, and this decline continued in till 2017-18. But after 2017-18, there was a huge sharp increase in the labor of participation into the agriculture activities after lockdown. But one of the interesting point to note here, that the role of construction, so the yellow, the construction activities in the state, particularly the rural constructions, there was a huge expand in the rural construction, which generated employment in the state. So the share of construction activities in overall employment generation increase, if you'll see, from 2.6% in 2004-5 to 18.5% in 2023-24. So of course there has been increasing the role of construction activities in order to providing employment opportunity to the workers in Bihar. And this was the case for the national level as well as, but in case of Bihar, the unique things only happen. There was a construction boom even after 2011-12. So this is interesting things to note here. So if you'll see enrollment of education, because in Bihar there has been increasing the enrollment in education. So between, if you'll see, between 2004-5 to 2023-24, there was around 10% point of more than 10% point of increase in the uh, educational enrollment in Bihar. So it means uh, these are the potential workers, a future potential workers who will be joining the labor force in upcoming future. And even if you look at the size of the labor force, size of this enrollment in education and other things like domestic activities, so these are the figures in millions. So around in 2023, around 42 million people were as I say, particularly there were 42 million students in Bihar. Whereas in case of domestic duties, who are attending the domestic duties, particularly the female who reported themselves as attending only domestic duties or uh, other activities along with the domestic duties. So it was 20% of 21% of the total total population. But there was a decline from 2017-18 to 2023-24, which I'll discuss how this decline, and if this was a decline, then where they were going. So we'll discuss it. So one of the interesting things happened after lockdown, what we can say is there was a sharp increase in the size of the workforce particularly. So there was around more than 15 million workers in the state in Bihar joined the labor force. And out of these 15 million workers, if you'll see, uh, uh, moreover, I'll say between 2005 and 2018, there was very little 0.1 million workers only joined the labor workforce in Bihar. But after 2018 and 2024, there are like 15 million workers joining the labor force. So if you look at the sectoral distribution of these workers, where they are going and what they are doing, so you'll find that in the rural, this 15% change particularly came from the rural area. Out of 15.2% increase in the size of workforce, 14 million workforce came from rural area only between this two time period, I'll say. So orange here bar showing for the changes between 2018 and 24, whereas blue bar showing the changes between 2005 and 2018. So if you look at closely what happened between 2005 and 2018, there was a huge decline in the workforce in Bihar, particularly in agriculture. Around 8 million workers withdraw themselves from out of agriculture and they join different sector, for example constructions and wholesale and community services, predominantly, and transportations. Moreover, between 2018 and 24, there was a huge increase, as I said, of workforce workforce of 15.2 million in Bihar. Out of that 15.2 million, 10.3 million only join agriculture activities. And as I said, there was a decline in manufacturing activities in the state between this period. And in construction, as construction has been playing a major role in terms of providing uh, employment opportunity in the within the state, and the role of wholesale hotels and trade, which increases over the period of again provided a employment opportunity. But one of the interesting things to note here that in case of female labor force, if you look at where the labor force for female employment, female participation into the labor force has been low. As we see in 2017-18, there was only 3%, around 3%, where women who reported themselves as part of the labor force. And but after COVID-19 lockdown between 2017 and 18, if you see the orange bar, uh, there was a if you'll see between 2005 and 2018 first, so there was around 4 million women workers withdraw themselves from out of agriculture sector. But what happened after 2018 17 18, during the lockdown period, there were around 8.8 million workers, particularly the female workers, registered themselves. They joined the agriculture labors, agriculture works in rural. This figure is for the both rural and urban areas. And again, construction was didn't play a huge role. So for a like I said earlier, out of 15.2 million workers who joined the labor force, 10 million, more than 10 million workers were female workers only. And out of 10.2 million female workers, 8.76% joined only agriculture. So after 2017-18, people, there was a huge rise in the workforce even at the national level. But at the national level, this was the same trend, like people are joining the labor force, particularly the female were joining the labor force. And they were joining, but they were joining as agriculture laborer, so agriculture play a huge role. So this kind of employment has been termed as a distress driven employment, because they were joining the labor force in order to support the families during the lockdown period, because there was a sharp decline in the income of the workers. So they came out in order to support the family. So this kind of employment has been termed as a distress driven employment in case of India. If you'll see the change in the workforce, like on account workers, employer and unfed family workers. So even in India, this figure again in a million. So out of and this is the change. So out of 15.2 million workers who joined the labor force in Bihar between 2018 and 2024, 13.8 million only joined the labor force as a self-employed. So this is not a what you can say is a good news for us. And only 1.3 million workers joined as a casual labor. So there has been increasing, but there has been a concern over increasing the labor force, because these labor force are not joining, they are joining the labor force but in agriculture activities, but instead they should have joined non-agriculture activities, particularly the manufacturing and construction and services sector, given the fact that there is a lack of employment opportunity in non-agriculture sector in Bihar. Coming back to this growth rate, so I have not included for the growth rate between 2017 and 18, after 2017-18. So if you'll see CAGR, compound annual growth rate, for Bihar and India has been quite similar. But as the case of India, there has been a high growth rate without increasing the employment opportunity. The same case goes with the Bihar, where there has been around 8% CAGR between 2004 5 and 2017 18. But still we are not able to, if you'll see between 2017 18, 2004 and 2017 18, we have not produced enough employment, like 0.1 million new workers were added, if you'll see in absolute term. But of course there were workers who withdraw from the agriculture for out of agriculture, and they join the construction and other activities. So jobless growth has been one of the main concern for India and Bihar as well as. So coming back to conclusion, uh, if you so coming back to the question which I put during in the beginning, like, will the growth rate of the labor demand in non-agriculture sector, particularly industry, construction and services sector, will grow enough to absorb this rise supply of the youth? Because, like, as I said, 42 million 42 million there are 42 million students in the state. If in the upcoming years or decades they will be joining the labor force, so given the fact that this labor force will be huge potential for the state of Bihar, whether there will be a supply, there will be a demand of this worker within the state. That is one of the main concern uh, for the state of Bihar. And as I said, this to reap this demographic window of opportunity, it is a challenge for the policymakers to use the strength of young men and women workers in the uh, to in order to grow more faster in the upcoming decades. And it will be one of the youngest state, as I said in the beginning. uh, as If you see the replacement level of fertility, if you'll see, so India has achieved the replacement level of demographic transition, but Bihar will be the only state who will be achieving this rate of demographic transition in 2039. So there will be a huge potential. There will be a huge supply of labors in the upcoming decades, even the decades uh, around 3 or 4 more decades. But whether we will be able to use the strength of this particular strength of these young people in the upcoming decades will be a question which need to discuss. And thank you so much. And it was, I don't know it is a 30 minutes or not, but I'll be open for the feedback and comments, which I also need for improvement in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shamshe. Very nice paper. Now, this paper is open for discussion. I invite Abdin Thakur for his opening comments.
Thank you, Shamshe, for interesting numbers and graph and good paper. So uh, let me start with a brief comment and then we'll ask a couple of questions. So first is that when you start talking about structural transformation, it clearly shows that there has not been any structural transformation in Bihar. Of course, similar is the case for India as well. So there has not been, because there's no shift towards manufacturing sector. Okay. So that's the first thing. So my question is, to what extent Bihar has been different than the country's trajectory? Okay, how far Bihar is different in that sense? Because if you look at the data, you will find that post-COVID era, it's not only Bihar, that for the country as a whole, the share of agriculture in total employment increased significantly. Okay, not only in absolute number, but share also increased. So
Yes.
it's called the reverse structural transformation, which has been happening. So, and it's true for Bihar also. And it's more true for Bihar because large number of Bihari migrants were outside. And post-COVID, they lost job. They went back to Bihar. And of course, Bihar hardly had any opportunity, manufacturing opportunity for them. So they were primarily engaged in agriculture or self-employed. That's quite evident there. But it is basically nationwide trend.
Yes.
So my first question from that is, to what extent Bihar is different than the national kind of scenario? And secondly, like when, as far as growth is concerned, you have not take that into account post 2018. Okay, growth
Yes.
rate. So it's sluggish. It's even lower than the previous period, certainly, because and you find a kind of overburdening of agriculture and others. So if you just extend that kind of relationship, jobless growth, you will find a kind of much rise in post COVID period. And self-employment is also problematic in Bihar, because my question is also because in Bihar already the share of self-employment is quite high. Dependence on agriculture is quite high. So what happens if somebody is having some land, they are basically working outside, and they are returning back to Bihar because of land and other activities. Even if they are not getting any job, they are basically state that they are engaged in agriculture and other activities. So they are basically uh, unemployed or underemployed in Bihar, and that is quite reflected to the earnings. So my question again is that, so how do you see, because this is happening at the national level, what do you see the future? Because it clearly shows that at the national level, there is no scope of employment in the manufacturing sector. So where Bihari laborers would go, because there is no opportunity in Bihar as well. Earlier, they used to migrate to other places. Now, most of the states are showing the same trend. So what would be the future of Bihar's labor force? Okay, so my first question is, what is the precise difference between employment condition in Bihar and at the national level? And secondly, what would be the future of Bihari laborers? And maybe I start with that, and maybe we'll get back to you later. Okay.
Should I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, so how far it is different from the country? So first about the structural transformation, I'll say like where between 2005, 4 and 5 and 11, 12, when there was an absolute decline in the size of agriculture labor force. So the labor economists like Santosh Mehrotra, Jajati Ke Parida, they term this as beginning of a structural transformation. But of course there was a manufacturing sector which was missing, because the share of manufacturing sector was not even above, it was around 15% only, which is stagnant over a period of time. In case of Bihar, how it is different, I'll say, if you look at the labor force transformation, so Bihar has been slow in terms of the people withdrawing themselves out of agriculture. So but in terms of manufacturing, as well as if you look at even before the bifurcation, the size of the share of workers employed in manufacturing activities was just 7 to 8%, and after uh, COVID-19 it is around 6%, which is of course a concern. And but at the national level it is 12%, which is not even a good news. um, but in case of Bihar, the case is much worse, I'll say. But one things I'll say in a positive note, like the role of construction activities in the state in terms of providing employment has been increasing even after the lockdown. And when there was a little increase at the national level between 2011 and 12 and 2017-18, Bihar saw a huge improvement in terms of increasing the size of workers employing into the construction sectors. So this is what I see in the different scenario from the national level. And about the growth rate, and like you said, during the lockdown period, people who migrated back to their village, they joined the agriculture labor force. And as at the national level there is a stagnant, I mean, there will be no manufacturing employment opportunity. So how the workers from Bihar particularly are going to cope up with that situation? uh, as so we don't have latest data on migration, but my experience, I'll say, the earlier people from Bihar were not migrating to the southern state, but now people have started migrating to the southern state as well, as particularly Kerala and Tamil Nadu, where there is a huge boom in construction first of all, and then of course there are new industries which are attracting these migrants worker. And also the terms of employment, as this is also my experience with the discussion with the migrants worker, is much better than the terms of employment in Delhi NCR, I will say, because there are a lot of workers from this area who left the job in Delhi NCR and they moved to Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So this is a point of concern where they will be able to find or they will like historical perspective. They have always been struggling to find employment and struggling from the and they have been migrating to different parts of the I can say world because Bihari migrants you can find a lot of places. And in future, if we are not able to like the government of Bihar is not able to create the decent employment opportunity within the state, of course they will migrate to other parts of the country and other part of the world like Middle East and Southeast Asian nations. So this.
So maybe just before I, give other, because I'm tempted to ask one more question that if you look at the share of formal employment, when we talk about structural transformation, it's not simply a shifting from agriculture to other sectors, but it has to do with how far your employment is qualitatively better. Okay.
Yes.
And qualitatively better employment primarily coming from the formalization of the workforce. So if moving from employment which is not giving any social security to social security, higher wage, regular wage, casual or self-employment to regular wage. So basically formalization of workforce is one of the very important characteristics of structural transformation. However, if you look at even during the time you said that the first period in which uh, people migrated away from agriculture, share of agriculture declined. Very surprisingly, you will find that people are moving to construction and other sectors, and they remain within the informal economy. So
Yes.
basically, their job conditions are not improving. So their social security status is not improving. Therefore, just if people are being shifted away, forced to leave agriculture, and they're attached to some other sectors with similar kind of living conditions, can you term that as structural transformation? So my question is that, so we need to, don't you think that we need to look at this transition more carefully, particularly in Bihar's context?
I'll say
Construction
even
sector, because just adding
yes.
to it, if you are talking about share of construction, if you look at the job within the construction sector from the perspective of quality of job, you will find that's pathetic. They are in large number of laborers are not getting even minimum wage in the construction sector. How would you turn that, shifting away from agriculture to construction is basically making their life better off? So that's also questionable assumption, don't you think that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a given. I mean, looking at the what perspective they are using. If you look at the initial perspective at what Louis gave, so people will initially migrate from the traditional to modern sector. Modern sector itself is characterized by the
Are
formalization
you
of.
are you considering construction a modern sector?
No, no, no. I'm not considering. I'm just looking at where they are employing. I'm not. Of course, the role of formal employment in India has been low and it has been staggering. And one of the modern issue after new issue after liberalization is the even the informalization of formal sector, as many labor economists has been arguing about that. So this is what I think. I mean, this is not I can say a structural transformation as per, but how people how the researcher in the labor economics has defining. I'm just trying to go with them, so I'm
Yeah,
not.
so I put a doubt on that. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe others ask questions
Yes,
or doubt.
I would invite Dr. Rupinder Kaur if she can make some observation or question.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. I'm really thankful for this information about this seminar. It's really interesting. I should congratulate this young man, Shamshe, that it's a good exercise. At least at PhD level, we are just learning the methodology rather than the conclusions or the, really finding something concrete. But that way, I think it's very interesting. Another thing that we are discussing, it is jobless growth. I would call it's not just jobless, it is a job loss growth, rather than, and the second, that is structural transformation, which we are talking about, is the reverse structural transformation going to agriculture. I think in the real sense, it's not employment, it's a disguised employment. They don't have any other alternative. So just to uh, earn two times meal, or just to make them,
livelihood.
looking like employed. So it is not in the real sense. Even the self-employment, that is not, we can call that it is a structural shift or something like that, because they can't afford to be remain unemployed. So it is their compulsion. So the thing that we are thinking about, the scope for the future for the Bihar, I think Punjab still has a big scope for Bihar, because nobody wants to all Punjabis, every year they are leaving India or Punjab in lakhs. So nobody want to work. So I've seen them. They're quite successful, not only in agriculture. They have shifted to other occupations, even in service sector, even in construction. They have improved their skills to different kind of work, not just the labor. Uh, just this to various activities. After construction, there are this woodwork and tiling and plumber, and there are so many activities that they have shifted to that. And even in education also, they are much better than the Punjabis. They are acquiring lots of skill. They are getting jobs in the computer and other various other employment opportunities they're getting. So but I'm worried why female participation is so low in Bihar. And if it has increased after this, it's not the liberalization. I think it's after the lockdown. So is it the compulsion, or is there any, new opportunities coming up, or it is the definition, or the, collection of data, that they are more sensitive, they're getting good training, the investigators, things like that. I would like to, know from you. I thank you very much for this interesting talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Um, Regarding the scope, as you talk about in case of Punjab, I have done my fieldwork there as well, in Ludhiana. And what I found, like, these are not migrating as a worker, as well as in some cases they are the entrepreneur. So they are running a small hosiery farms, employing the workers from Bihar and UP, around 10 or 15 workers. So even they are also migrating not only as a worker but as an employer as well, as and running a small businesses around Ludhiana. So about the female participation, there has been always been skeptical about the measurement issue, and the researcher has been talking about how the, I mean, it cannot be so low. There has been, of course, there has been some measurement issue, like for example, a woman is working as a domestic worker, has to work as a domestic worker, but she's also working as a agriculture laborer. So in terms of capturing whether it's a domestic worker or it's a agriculture laborer, there has been a measurement issue at the ground level. And of course, after COVID-19, there was a huge increase in the participation of women in agriculture. This was not something come out of a positive note, but it was a compulsion for the women worker to join the workforce in order to support the family when the family lost. I mean, uh, when, let's say, a husband lost the job in the market, once he is migrated back. So it comes out of compulsion rather than it was it came out of some policy reforms. So this is my.
Thank you. Ishan would like to ask any question?
Not a question, but just a second. Uh, yeah, so not a question, but a comment or a suggestion. I mean, we can talk over tea here, but I think so. It's a interesting. I think it's interesting what you're doing, and you have done a survey. So that is a strength of yours. So a lot of people will use PLFS and secondary data. There's advantage you possess that you have already done a survey. So, and if you could tell, some story or include some of those aspects of your from your primary survey, but also a little historical context of Bihar and the evolution. So that need not be from it need not necessarily be a data work. You need not necessarily pick up 10 rounds of NSS, but we know from secondary literature, etc., etc., other stories that Bihar has evolved in a particular way. So I think that will give it some more depth. Some history and historical analysis plus some insights from the field work, and then whatever you're doing is obviously fantastic. You supplement it with secondary data. That will add on to your the strengths of your paper. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now let me ask one question.
Yes.
I will give opportunity to others again. Uh, at one point of time, since I am working in Bihar for last 10 years, I feel that leaders of Bihar and intelligentsia of Bihar is almost hopeless about creating job in Bihar. You need tremendous capital to create job for these people. And Bihar is a state where you don't have capital. No one is going to invest in Bihar on that scale. Government is not capable of that. And even if government borrows from somewhere, that cannot generate the kind of employment we require. So I think, or this is a point, this is a very heartless thing, but I feel that should we accept this destiny of Bihar, that Bihar will be ultimately a labor supplying state? And if we accept that, then should we prepare for a higher quality of labor, which suits 22nd century jobs, than lamenting on this fact that Bihar is not generating enough employment? For example, maybe various kind of digital workers, maybe people who are suited for new kind of solar economy, or maybe new kind of automobile industry. So this is a time where policymakers have to decide, especially inside Bihar, that while Bihar has so much, labor supply coming in, how that labor supply should be utilized. So instead of harping on this fact and lamenting that we are not creating enough job, should we focus on new kind of vocational education? And if government, instead of spending money of industrialization, or instead of investing on agriculture within quotes, just question, should we invest more on vocational education so that our level force can serve other economies of the world, not only India, of the world? This is my question on perspective. What do you feel?
So, what can I say about this? Of course, Bihar will be, if you are not going to utilize this potential of upcoming labor force, there will be a will become the labor supply state to the India and the world. But I think there are scopes. It's not something there is no any scope. Like if you'll see, earlier the industries were based on the raw materials based, or there has been a historical advantage for the western state like Gujarat and Maharashtra to develop their industries. But in upcoming in the in the era of data, like IT industries and other things, which are not based solely on the raw materials, I think creating a special economic zone within the state in order to promote this kind of industry, or in order to promote the industries like Hyderabad did. And of course, Hyderabad had a historical advantage. But the terms of like the coastal region cannot be in the matter, because it's not based on the transportation and other things. And of course, in order to do that, we'll have to provide vocational training, vocational education, and better education quality within the state. So I think there are a scope, but we cannot say ki we are hopeless about the creating job within the state. Of course, we have to move out of agriculture, and with the better training and better vocational training and better education, we will be in the position to not only supply the labor, but if government initiate this initiative of like a special economic zone, we'll be able to uh, uh, create output within the state. So
Thank you. Any other question? We have 5 minutes left.
Maybe if anybody is not, then I will. Okay, if I will wait.
Just give chance to others.
I was just wondering that when we are looking at migration, we are looking at agriculture, we are looking at construction. Have we ever attempted to look at the skilling aspect of the labor, whether it's a government effort or self-effort, when the migrant laborers go to different parts of the country? Because you said there is a large migration in the southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And if you look at those migrant laborers who have gone to Tamil Nadu and Kerala, what kind of skilling they have done for themselves? So when you said Ludhiana and you said it's not only labor, it's also entrepreneurship. They have themselves created opportunities. So what kind of skilling has happened? So if we are looking at migration, we will also have to look at whether there is a particular pattern of skilling among the Bihari laborers. So migration, we are looking at only in terms of the manual laborers. Don't we look at the other kinds of migration also, and how that migration would affect the manual labor migration? So like Ludhiana, you said that there are some entrepreneurs who started a small business and then they brought other Biharis there to work in those projects. So if they brought those Biharis there,
Please
what
on
kind
your
of
camera.
skilling happened there? So uh, one part is that many times, means most of the time, you are very cynical about Bihar. But I have a feeling that, as your data suggests, that by 2037, this population stabilization would happen. And once the population stabilization happen, there would be many solutions coming forward for change in Bihar. But I am more interested in looking at what kind of skilling the Bihari laborers have uh, get when they migrate from Bihar. So is there any such studies?
in my study, I haven't found such. I mean, there has been workers, because my study only focuses on the workers, those who are working in the uh, hosiery industries, garment industries, and iron and automobiles industries. So I didn't find such. I mean, because these industries doesn't require a lot of skill.
So
So
can I give you some examples? Like
Please
from
on your camera,
Kuseswara,
sir. Please switch on your camera. Yes.
yeah, in Darbhanga district, there is a place called Kuseswara Sthan. So from Kuseswara Sthan, I find large number of the minority community people in Rajasthan, and they are in groups and they go to different places and have melas. So they are not settled in Rajasthan, uh, but they come here and they move all around Rajasthan and organize melas. And all of them are Bihari, and I find them, most of them, from Kuseswarasthan. When I go to the temple places in Rajasthan, most of the hotels where the workers are there, they are Biharis, especially from Darbhanga, Muzaffarpur, Gaya. When I look at the Rajasthan hotels at tourist places, most of the hotel employees are from Gaya, Jahanabad. So I have met large number of them. And when I look at their skills, how they have skilled themselves, it's not that they came with that skill when they left Bihar, but when they came to these places, how they have skilled themselves. So I am more interested in looking at what happens in that skilling or reskilling of these people, and what are the factors which cause or which help in skilling or reskilling.
Yes, you have made it clear.
Okay. So even in Ludhiana,
Please be brief. Now
okay.
we are running out of time. Yes.
In case of Ludhiana, I'll just give an example. So one of the employer who were from Bihar employing the workers from Bihar, he migrated as a workers in the hosiery industry itself. But over a period of time, when he get experience and experience to the market, particularly how to handle the what you call contract, if any contract is getting, so it comes out of experience. So learning at the place of work is, I think, one of the factors, has been one of the factor in terms of whether improvement of skilling, or whether in terms of being an employer from the work, I mean, instead of being a worker. So it comes out at the place of work and with the experience, I think. So
Anyone? Last question. If no one, then at least Avneendra.
Yeah,
Anyone
just
before Avneendra?
yeah, just very brief and last. So, do you see any role of demand? Because we can create too many plumbers, electrician, or vocational or skilled person, but do we actually know that what is the demand of those skilled workers? Because even in ITs, people are not being employed on the basis of their skill; they are going to software. So, how do you think that the role of demand is very instrumental? Because there is no modern sector in the country is basically attracting laborers infinitely, and never happened like that. So how far do you think that demand, overall demand, is basically restricting that structural transformation? That's okay.
I'll just give an example. Like instead of Bihar introduce one of the policy, migration counseling cum registration center, MCRC. So this was to assist the migrants worker. So with the type of skill required all over the India, whether the plumber skill are required at a particular place or not. So the purpose was to scan the India labor market and what kind of skill required at a what place, and try to assist the migrants worker from Bihar to be at the right place and with the right skill. But it is not effective as of now. So I think I mean, government of Bihar has to work on such kind of policies and make it effective in order to assist, if uh, not providing employment in the state, so assist the migrants worker to migrate them smoothly with the right skill. So that we really need to think of.
Would like to close now. If someone has very compelling question, then we can take a minute. Anyone? Thank you, Sams. Thank you very much. You have inaugurated our season 3 Gyanotsav lectures, Gyanotsav webinars, and I look forward to your work as a young scholar who can solve some of the riddles of migration from Bihar. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
everyone for joining.
Thank
you.
you so much for providing this opportunity. Thank you so much.